College can wait, sweetheart. Family doesn't, Dad said, voice wobbling like it made the sentence softer. Yeah, my brother snorted from the couch, wristband still creasing his skin. Send the genius my chip, maybe it'll get her a dorm with a view. Aunt Mara texted the family group. Proud of you, Josh. Fourth time's the charm. And a dozen clapping emojis lit up like fireworks over a grave. The acceptance letter lay open on the kitchen table, bright as a window into a life that apparently didn't belong to me. I could feel the paper's edge pressing a red dent into my thumb, the way you hold on to something so hard it starts to hurt. My chest did that slow, heavy ache, the kind that pretends to be breathing but isn't. I'd planned the campus tour, the books, the room with the slanted ceiling, the cheap string lights, a future I had stitched with polite dreams. Hi everyone, my name is Rowan Hale. I'm 18. Tell me, when you're raised to be the quiet good daughter, what volume is left for your own life? Dad wouldn't look at me. He stared at the jar of coffee like it needed saving. Your brother needed it more, he said, gentle, like I should be proud to agree. It was an emergency. Was, my brother echoed, tearing the corner of a napkin into confetti. You'll survive. Smart girls always do. The number $57,000 kept throbbing in my head, the way a burn remembers heat. It wasn't just money, it was baby photos where Mom wrote for her future on the back. It was birthdays without bikes. Hand-me-downs with someone else's history sewn into the hems. It was my babysitting cash that smelled like popcorn and old carpets. 18 years distilled into a balance I had never touched because I believed a promise. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. I watched the light from the window crawl across Dad's knuckles, the freckle on his ring finger shaking. I heard the faucet drip, steady as a metronome. I folded the acceptance letter once, twice, until the school crest was a crease. Okay, I said, because that's what I've always said when they hand me a burden and call it family. But my hands were already moving. I opened the drawer with the warranties and the birthday candles. Beneath the rubber bands was the accordion file with our names on tabbed lips. I slid mine out, medical school bank. A page fluttered loose. Not a withdrawal slip. A signature form. 2 of them. Dad's handwriting beside my name. Rowan, he whispered, finally looking up as the house tightened around us like a held breath. Don't. I didn't slam the drawer. I didn't rip the paper. I just stood there holding that authorization form like it was suddenly heavier than the entire kitchen. The signature, forged in that lazy half-cursive shape Dad always used for grocery lists and birthday cards, sat like a bruise right beside my printed legal name. And the silence between us wasn't normal silence. It was the kind that screams. Dad swallowed and pointed toward the fridge like we were talking about leftovers. Honey, you have to understand. My brother chuckled under his breath, a smug exhale of entitlement. She's so dramatic, Dad. I'll pay her back. With what? I asked softly. He shrugged. Life. Karma. I don't know. I'm sober now. His phone buzzed. The rehab nurse sending a congratulations on discharge confetti gif. The irony almost tasted metallic. I sat down, not because I needed to but because my knees were turning into warm water. I placed the signature form on the table right next to my acceptance letter. 2 futures side by side. One earned. One stolen. Your brother would have died, Dad whispered. That money saved his life. Saved. Saved. Everyone kept saying saved like my future wasn't a life too. Did you even think about asking me? My voice wasn't loud. It was low and steady like a held blade. Dad blinked, like the thought had never existed. We're family. We share pain. But apparently we don't share opportunity. The faucet dripped again. 1, 2, 3. My brother yawned. I pushed both forms gently toward Dad. Keep them, I said. They belong to you now. Because something inside me, something small, quiet, obedient, snapped its last thread. Just like that. I took my letter, slipped it into my bag, stood and walked out, not in rage, not in panic, but with a cold, clean kind of clarity that felt like stepping outside after a storm. Dad whispered behind me, almost begging, "Don't leave angry." I wasn't angry. Not anymore. I was calculating. The air outside was colder than it should have been for April. The sort of cold that feels like it has a personal opinion about you. My shoes hit the driveway like metronome strikes, steady, controlled, heartbeat sharp. I stood beside my old Civic, Maroon paint faded, one window crank stuck halfway, and I just breathed. Not rage. Not grief. Awareness. Inside, through the kitchen window, I could still see Dad's outline, shoulders caved inward, palms over his face, like he was the victim of his own choices. My brother was already scrolling TikTok, probably searching for the next dopamine hit to blanket his ego. They weren't worried about what they took. They were worried about how I reacted to it. That's what families like mine are best at, rewriting the sin, then critiquing your response to it. And that's the moment, leaning against a rusty Civic, when I realized I had never been loved for me. I was a resource, a reservoir, a good investment when sacrifice was needed. My phone buzzed, a notification from the university portal. Upload funding confirmation to secure enrollment spot. Funny how life times its punches. I opened the trunk. Old textbooks, jumper cables, the blanket Grandma crocheted, the one she called luck woven. I slid the acceptance letter in there like an artifact I refused to bury. Then I pulled out the envelope Grandma once told me to keep until the day you stop trusting smiles. Inside, her handwriting wobbly and tiny. Rowan, use this when you realize they think your loyalty is their property. Kish. Not $57,000. Not even close. Maybe $240. But it was the first time anyone had saved something for me, not for the family system. It felt like oxygen. I sat in the car, clicked the mirror down, looked at my own reflection, eyes a little red but steady. I didn't look broken. I looked awake. My phone lit up again. Dad texting. Don't tell anyone about this. It'll ruin your brother's recovery. The words stung, but not because they hurt, they confirmed something brutal. He wasn't sorry he took my future. He was scared someone else might judge him for it. I exhaled once, long, like sealing a decision. Biz now. I wasn't planning to recover from this. I was planning to expose it, slowly. Poetic. Surgical. And they would never see it coming. I drove, not fast, not reckless, just enough speed to feel the hum of the road under my ribs. There's a specific kind of silence inside a car when betrayal is fresh. It isn't quiet, it's calculating. I parked outside the public library. The one with flickering fluorescent lights, outdated carpet that smelled like old pages and lemon disinfectant. I walked in, slid into a computer cubicle, logged into my student portal. The financial aid section blinked like a dare. If this ever happened to you, say, same in the comments. I typed slow, not because I was unsure, but because every keystroke felt like stitching a wound shut. Reason, family financial collapse. Which, honestly, it was. I clicked submit for emergency aid evaluation. Then I opened a new tab. My hands didn't even shake. I searched. Rights when a parent uses a child's education trust funds without consent. I half expected nothing, but pages popped up. Case studies. Legal hotlines. Forums full of people whose family used loyalty like a debit card. It wasn't just betrayal. It was qualified fraud. My pulse didn't spike, it settled. I took photos of the signed withdrawal forms tucked inside my bag. Clear, sharp, date-stamped. I documented everything. Then I emailed them to myself. Because evidence is only power when duplicated. My phone buzzed again. Dad. We're in this together. Don't turn this into something ugly. Funny how people who create ugliness think they get to decide what's ugly. I typed back 2 words. I won't. But not the way he meant. Because here's the thing, I wasn't rushing. Revenge that rushes becomes vengeance. And vengeance becomes sloppy. I wanted clarity. Consequence. Quiet consequence. I closed my laptop, borrowed a pen and sticky note from the reference desk and wrote one single sentence. Your brother needed it more. I stuck it behind my debit card, not to remember what he said, but to remember the exact moment the father-daughter bridge burned down without flames. When I stepped back outside, I didn't head home. I drove to Grandma's gravestone, tiny pale gray marble, tucked beside a sweet gum tree. I placed one hand on the cold surface. Thank you, I whispered, for saving even a little for me. And the wind moved like she heard me. That was the moment I finally believed something. I wasn't the daughter they nurtured. I was the daughter they underestimated. And nothing is more dangerous than a quiet girl who finally learns. She doesn't owe anyone silence. The lawn beside Grandma's stone was damp, morning dew clinging to the grass like tiny glass beads. I sat on the little concrete ledge by the sweet gum roots, knees pulled in, the acceptance letter folded in my lap. I kept tracing the embossed school crest with my thumb, not because I doubted myself, but because it reminded me I had earned something they thought they could repurpose. People think betrayal is loud. It's not. It's quiet steps in a kitchen. It's paperwork someone signs when you're asleep. It's the moment you find out your life was budgeted for someone else's disaster. I opened my phone again, scrolling through old photos, birthdays, homemade cakes, Dad's jokes about me being his smartest return on investment. I didn't cry at them. I just studied them, like evidence in reverse. Then I clicked on my banking app. I'd never questioned it before, that balance line that said future college fund. Because in my head trust was a given. That's the church I was raised in. That's the sacred text. Family equals unquestioned faith. But faith without proof isn't loyalty. It's blindness. The balance was now $23.17. I typed in the branch phone number, thumb hovering over call, then stopped. As I knew the bank manager. I'd met her once, when I was 12, the summer they added $120 from my babysitting to my account. She'd smiled and said, "This is rare, honey. Most kids don't get savings this young. You're lucky." Lucky. Luck was just someone else's narrative. I stood up, brushed grass specks off my jeans, walked back to the car and drove straight to the bank. The lobby smelled like printer toner and perfume that tried too hard. The manager, Mrs. Ellery, recognized me instantly. "Rowan. College planning, right?" I didn't smile back. "I need transaction documents for my education fund for the last 18 years. All withdrawals. All signatures. Originals." Her eyes widened, not suspicious, but protective. "Did something happen?" "Something," I whispered, sliding Dad's forged signature across the desk, "was taken." Her face changed, not pity, not shock, but that tight professional focus people get when rules collide with ethics. She typed rapidly, pulling up archived logs. I watched numbers scroll on her monitor. Withdrawals, dates, signature authorizations. A year ago. 6 months ago. 1 month ago. All forged. When she printed the file, a heavy stack of legal-sized paper, she slid it toward me like she was handing me a weapon. "Not a gun. A mirror." "Rowan," she said quietly. "Do you want to press charges?" I didn't answer. Not yet. Because pressing charges was not revenge. Pressing charges was only step one. I left the bank with the documents pressed against my chest like armor. Outside, sunlight hit the glossy pages, black ink signatures shimmering like they'd been branded into the paper with heat instead of pen. People walked past me unaware, checking phones, chatting, living simple normal Tuesday lives. But it felt like the world should have paused. Because I was holding proof of something daughters aren't supposed to name. Parents aren't supposed to steal. I sat in my car again, engine off, windows cracked just enough to let spring air thread through. I laid the stack on my passenger seat. Evidence. Not anger. Not accusation. Evidence. My phone buzzed. Dad calling. I watched his name blink. I didn't pick up. The call dropped. Then came the text. "Do not involve outsiders. Family matters stay in the family." That sentence did more to confirm my next step than anything else. Family matters stay in the family equals, your suffering belongs to our control. I drove to the university campus. Not inside, just to the overlook by the old oak benches where kids took grad photos with crisp gowns and nervous proud smiles. I walked up to the admissions building, sat on the brick ledge and opened my bag. Acceptance letter. Photo evidence. Bank logs. Forged signature forms. One life on one side of the bag. One crime on the other. I looked up at the building's windows. Students walked by glowing with ambition. I slipped the acceptance letter out, held it closer to my chest. Then I did something tiny but tectonic. I emailed the dean's financial office, attached the first PDF set of forged withdrawals, and wrote a single line. My education fund was used without my consent. I'm requesting a meeting to explore alternate funding and legal remedies. Not rage. Procedure. 2 minutes later, an email pinged back. An automated calendar link for priority cases. Tomorrow morning 9:30 a.m. My throat tightened, not with fear, with a strange, electrified steadiness. Then a notification popped up. Dad again. If you ruin your brother's recovery, this is on you. I exhaled slowly. They weren't protecting him. They were protecting their narrative. I stood up from the brick ledge, spine straight, and whispered to myself. They think I'm playing defense. I wasn't. I was setting the board. The dean's office smelled like coffee and wood polish, the kind of grown-up scent people think signals competence. He listened with the polite tilt of someone who's read many tragedies and files them alphabetically. I slid the bank prints across his desk, then the email thread with the admissions office, then a copy of Grandma's crocheted blanket photo tucked between pages like a talisman. He didn't flinch at the blanket. He read the facts. Quietly, he said, "We can put a hold on your account and issue emergency funding while this is investigated." His fingers tapped the pen like a metronome. Procedure. Protection. Outside, the campus breathed, kids laughing, a frisbee slicing the air, and I felt like I was moving through another person's film. I texted Dad a single line. Meeting tomorrow 9:30. Bring proof of payments for Josh's rehab. 3 dots. Then nothing. Next I went to legal aid. A woman with sharp glasses and a soft voice, Miss Klein, became my new constable of calm. She read the bank logs and made a sound that wasn't pity. It was recognition. "We can file a civil claim, and the bank might reverse unauthorized withdrawals if the signatures are forged," she said. "Also, you should file a police report. We'll draft it together." Filing it felt like stepping over a threshold. I filled the form slowly, writing what had been whispered in our house for years into official ink. Breach of trust, unauthorized withdrawal, familial exploitation. The clerk stamped the receipt with a hollow thunk that felt unexpectedly like a bell. When I walked back to the car, my phone burst with a new kind of noise. Group messages, a flurry of family concern that smelled less like love and more like performance. My brother sent a selfie, bright smile, hospital bracelet still on, captioned, "New start." Dad sent 2 messages. "Please don't make this public. Call me." I didn't call. Instead, I opened the voice memo app and recorded one sentence into the cold. "If you wanted me to save my future, you should have asked." I saved it as evidence under 7. On the drive home, I passed the pawn shop where Josh once traded a watch for cash. The watch's face was a small, dull sun in the window. Hands stopped at 2:17. I thought of time and how some people spend other people's futures like loose change. I pulled into the driveway, acceptance letter burning a pocket-shaped heat against my thigh. I opened the front door. They were already at the table, laughing, pretending the world hadn't shifted 1 inch. Dad looked up when I entered, eyes caught somewhere between pleading and fear. I sat, unfolded the stack of papers on the table and said very calmly, "There's a police report with your name on it now." The spoon Dad was holding clattered into his bowl. The sound hollowed out the kitchen. "Who filed it?" he whispered. I smiled, not bitter, not triumphant, just certain. "Me." Dad's eyes went glassy, like he was staring at a future he never imagined would include consequences. My brother froze mid-laugh, the spoon between his fingers dripping soup back into the bowl. For once, no one breathed. I placed the forged forms between them like laid cards. "Josh got 4 chances," I said softly. "I get 1. Dad reached for my wrist, but I moved my hand away before his fingers touched skin. That small refusal hurt him more than the papers ever could. Because for the first time in my life, I chose me. "I'll fix this," Dad whispered. "You already did," I replied. "Just not the way you think." He blinked, confused, then the realization dawned. Slowly, painfully. This wasn't revenge through rage. It was revenge through emancipation. I stood, pulled the acceptance letter from my bag. Glass morning light poured across the crest like a crown. "I start school," I said, "with university funding, not family sacrifice." My brother scoffed. "So you think you're better than us?" "No," I said. "I finally realized I'm separate." Silence tightened again, but this time it belonged to me. I walked to my room, the house feeling smaller with every step, and zipped the last duffel bag shut. I didn't slam doors. I didn't curse. I didn't break. I simply left. The library parking lot became my first home. The campus cafeteria, my second. Legal aid, my lighthouse. And here's the poetic justice. I didn't ruin my brother's life. I just stopped underwriting it. And without my future to borrow from, they finally had to live inside the consequences they built. I didn't hurt anyone. I just stopped bleeding for them.